Hi everyone, I'm Julia Moan and I did my presentation on the rabies virus. I guess the reason I chose this is it's very common, but I also have just been listening on NPR of how the instances of rabies are increasing due to people not only vaccinating themselves against preventable illnesses, but also their animals. And so I just thought it would be a good thing to educate myself on this as well so I can help spread more information about it. So, according to the World Health Organization, which is where I got most of my information, is they had a lot. It's a viral infection that primarily affects animal or mammals and can affect humans as well. It's usually transmitted through the saliva of an infected animal, but sometimes it can be a scratch or a bite. And in one thing I saw, it could also be you could breathe it in through aerosoled saliva from an animal. It affects your central nervous system and is fatal if it's left untreated. Um, yes. Okay. Um, the signs and symptoms, sometimes when you get it, it's almost as if you're having the flu. Um, Fever, headache, fatigue, muscle weakness, discomfort, and just general malaise. You also have a loss of appetite. And oftentimes if you have a bite, a swollen bite wound or scratch wound. But when it gets more advanced, so this is why you immediately, if you do come in contact with something like a bat or a skunk or raccoons or any animal that could possibly have rabies, especially if you don't have the specimen anymore, you need to go and get treatment for it immediately, because once you get the advanced system or symptoms, it becomes fatal. And so there's two types. There's furious rabies, and it's like encephalitic. It causes hyperactivity, restlessness, hydrophobia, like you want to drink water but you can't do it. Aerophobia, I was reading that it can cause, if there's a draft of air or wind, it makes like a person twitch or have a spasm. And death occurs after a few days due to your cardiorespiratory arrest. But there's also paralytic rabies. This is about 20% of human cases. It's less dramatic, and it usually takes longer, but it moves from the site of infection and your muscles become paralyzed versus your nerves becoming infected, like with the furious rabies type. And a coma will slowly develop and eventually you'll die. But I was also reading a lot of times this is just underreported because it's not so dramatic that people don't realize that it's rabies and people die, and especially in underdeveloped countries, it's the trying to diagnose it afterwards is difficult. So, the physical attributes of the infectious disease, it's of the genus of lysoviruses. That means it comes from the Greek word for rage or madness. It's a bullet-shaped virus. It's only 180 nanometers long and 75 nanometers wide, and it's in an envelope. It's capsulized, and it's gram negative. Inside the envelope, and this is from the National Library of Medicine's website, it's a single-stranded RNA genome, and that genome only codes for 5 essential proteins, which are these N, P, M, G, and L, these large polymerase ones at the bottom, and these are just some electron microscope photographs of the actual rabies virus. So again, according to the WHO, rabies causes almost 60,000 human deaths each year. And 95% of those cases are from Asia and Africa, where there's a lot of stray dogs and street dogs and people get bit. They're the main source of transmission. But in the United States, the red fox is a main transmitter of this, but also skunks, raccoons, and bats. Okay, so again, 59,000 people die of rabies every year. Most of it, I guess, is in children under the age of 15 and in rural areas. The dog-related rabies, 99% of cases in people are from dog bites. If you can get that post-exposure prophylaxis, the PEP, almost 29 million people receive treatment for exposure to rabies each year. Even myself personally, I know 2 people who have had to have PEP this year. And if you're in a developing nation, it can cost you 40 to 100 US dollars per treatment, which can be unaffordable for people. The economic impact globally is just for prevention, control, and treatment costs, approximately 8.6 billion annually due to medical expenses and loss of productivity of people. So it does have a huge impact on us economically as well. The long-term prognosis of this is once symptoms appear, it's almost always fatal. So it's a really scary disease, but also if you get treatment, it's almost 100% survivable. And you clean the wound and get a series of rabies vaccinations. What I found really interesting is when I was looking through all of this information is that the incubation period can vary from 1 to 3 months. So it might not happen immediately, but it can be shortened depending on it, like if the bite is closer to where your brain is or the viral load of the bite itself. But I even saw one instance where it said the incubation period could be up to a year, which is really scary to me. There was also, so like if you do survive it without getting treatment, this is really rare. And according to the AAAS, there was this experiment done in Wisconsin called the Milwaukee Protocol, and it's where a teenage girl was put into an induced coma and then given a lot of antiviral medication. And she did survive, but after that, most people, like if this, for the rare amounts of people that this did happen to, like once some symptoms start, it's hard to get, the vaccinations don't help anymore. But if you can get put into a coma and you can survive it, you do have a lot of neurological damage done, and it wasn't good. All right, so in conclusion, vaccinate your animals and tell other people to as well. And it is extremely fatal, but through prevention and timely PEP, people can effectively control the spread of this virus. And here are my references. And I have a virus right now, if you can tell from my voice. All right, thanks everyone.